Let us discuss about the antifungal drugs, their classification and mechanism of action. Fungi are complex as compared to the bacteria. Bacteria are prokaryotic cells and fungi are eukaryotic cells. There is significant role of fungi in human beings due to various reasons, and the fungi, they are of economic importance and they are utilized for the food processing such as the yeast. They are also the important source of antibiotics, but they also spoil the food and other items and are responsible for diseases in human beings. They are present in the environment and in human beings as commensals, and they do not cause any risk to the health in subjects with normal immunity, that is, in the immunocompetent individuals. So we can say that the fungi are eukaryotic, heterotrophic organisms that live as saprophytics or as parasitic organisms. They are complex organisms in comparison to bacteria. They have a nucleus and well-defined nuclear membrane and chromosomes. They have a rigid cell wall which is composed of chitin, whereas the bacterial cell wall is composed of peptidoglycan. The fungal cell membrane contains ergosterol, whereas the human cell membrane is composed of the cholesterol. The antibacterial agents are not effective against the fungi, and fungal infections are also called as mycosis. Now, the systemic fungal infections, they occur only when the normal non-pathogenic bacterial flora of the body is altered or immunity is decreased due to disease or drugs. That is, they are the opportunistic infections. In the last few decades, the fungal infections have increased mainly because of extensive use of the broad spectrum antibiotics like tetracycline, which they cause the alteration or they reduce the normal non-pathogenic flora, which actually prevents the growth of the fungi. Then there is the wide use of immunosuppressants, including corticosteroids or the cytotoxic anti-cancer drugs and immunosuppressants which are used for the organ transplantation or for the treatment of the cancers. Then use of dentures and indwelling catheters and implants, as well as the high prevalence of the HIV, then diabetes mellitus, and in cases of burns, the emergence of the AIDS has led to development of many opportunistic infections, including the systemic fungal infections. So as a result of breakdown of the host defense mechanism by all these agents, the saprophytic fungi, they easily invade the living tissue. Now, if we see the different categories of fungals which are pathogenic for the human beings, these fungi, they have the filamentous projections called the hyphae, and they have the mycelium. Mycelium is the knitting of the hyphae together. So the mold-like appearance of the fungi is due to the presence of the mycelium. So the different main categories of fungi which are pathogenic for human beings are yeast. We have the example of Cryptococcus neoformis. Then yeast-like fungi or mycelium-like structure, we have the Candida. Then filamentous fungi, which is the true mycelium, we have Aspergillus fumigatus, Trichophyton, Microsporum, and Epidermophyton. Then there is dimorphic fungi also. This is either yeast or filamentous, depending on the availability of nutrition. And there is Histoplasma capsulatum, Coccidioides, and Blastomyces. These fungi, they can cause infection even in the immunocompetent subjects. That is the Histoplasma capsulatum, Coccidioides, and Blastomyces. As far as Pneumocystis jirovecii is concerned, earlier it was known as Pneumocystis carinii. It is now considered a fungus, and earlier it was considered a protozoa, though it has characteristic of both. Now the fungal infections, they are of two types, that is the superficial infection, also known as the superficial mycosis, and the systemic infection, that is known as the deep mycosis. Now the superficial infections, they are common, they cause discomfort, they are also considered nuisance, and but they are curable, that is they are not life threatening. Whereas the systemic infections or the deep mycosis, they do not occur in normal persons. They can be very serious, they can cause the serious infection, and that can be life threatening. They are difficult to treat, And the drugs which are used are sometimes they are toxic on systemic administration. So the systemic fungal infection, they are common in patients where the immunity is suppressed due to the drugs or disease, and it is uncommon in person with the normal immunity. So the different types of fungal infections, superficial mycosis, it constitutes the candidiasis and the dermatomycosis. So in candidiasis, you can see it is caused by the candida. Candida is a yeast-like and it forms a filamentous structure. It is a commensal in human beings. It is present in the mouth, throat, gut, skin, mucous membrane and vagina. And usually it does not cause any disease in the immunocompetent person or with the normal bacterial flora. It affects the mucous membrane of the skin. That is, it can cause the cutaneous candidiasis, that is mucocutaneous candidiasis also, and in the vagina it causes the vulvovaginal candidiasis, and in mouth the oropharyngeal candidiasis, also known as the oral thrush. So the second superficial mycosis is the dermatomycosis, or known as the ringworm infection. The dermatophytes, they cause the infection of the skin, hair, and the infection of the nail is known as onychomycosis. These are the dermatomycosis. The dermatomycosis is caused by trichophoton, microsporum, and epidermophyton, and it causes the tinea or the ringworm infections. The tinea causes different types of the ringworm infection, and it depends upon the area which is involved. It is known as tinea barbae when the area involved is the beard, that is known as the barbus itch. Then tinea capitis, if the area involved is the scalp. Tinea crures, the area involved is groin, also known as the Dobie's itch. And tinea pedis is also involving the feet, is known as the athlete's foot. Tinea corporis involves the body, and tinea anguim involves the nails. Deep mycosis, on the other hand, it involves the aspergillosis, also the invasive pulmonary aspergillosis, plastomycosis, coccidioidiomycosis, candidiasis, the disseminated candidiasis or moniliasis, cryptococcosis, histoplasmosis, mucormycosis, paracoccidioidiomycosis, pseudoleishmaniasis, sporotrichosis. The diagnosis of fungal infections are made by culture-based methods or by the direct examination of specimen under the light microscope. But sometimes they may not be reliable. So modern mycology, there are some new diagnostic techniques like the polymerase chain reaction, PCR, then the Western blot, and antigen detection and identification of the fungal metabolites. Many of these techniques are still investigational. Therefore, these are performed in parallel with the traditional culture-based methods. So coming to the antifungal drugs, by definition, the drugs which are used for superficial and deep or systemic fungal infections, they are known as the antifungal drugs. Now, if you see the history of the antifungal drugs, the topical antifungal drugs were in use during the antiseptic era, that is in the 19th century. Then in the 20th century, we have the introduction of amphotericin B and griseofulvin, these two important antibiotics, antifungal antibiotics. They were discovered in 1956. Amphotericin was discovered and griseofulvin was introduced in 1960. Amphotericin B proved to be very valuable for treatment of the systemic fungal infection, and it is very, very effective, although it is toxic. Whereas griseofulvin, it was introduced in 1960 for treatment of the superficial mycosis, that is its effect on the dermatophytes. Then nystatin was also, it is a polyene antibiotic, just like amphotericin B, which was introduced in 1960. Then flucytosine, this has an antifungal property of flucytosine. It was noted in 1970, and it basically now it serves as a companion drug to the amphotericin B. Then in 1970 itself, during the mid 1970, there was introduction of the azoles, the imidazoles, and the triazoles. They are less toxic as compared to imidazoles, and they are an advancement, and they are introduced in 1980. So the introduction of azoles, it was a remarkable change in the treatment of fungal infections because the azoles, they are less toxic as compared to the amphotericin B. Then, so this was the introduction of antifungal drugs during the 19th century and the 20th century. In the 21st century, we have terbinafine, which is a novel antifungal introduced in 2008. And echinocandins, these are a group of potent semi-synthetic antifungal antibiotics. And these echinocandins, they are a latest addition. They were introduced in 2010. Now coming to the classification of the antifungal drugs, we can see that based on the chemical structure, we have certain antibiotics, antifungal antibiotics like polyenes, amphotericin B, nystatin, heterocyclic benzofuran like griseofulvin, and echinocandins, caspofungin, micafungin, and anidulafungin. So these are the antifungal antibiotics. Then antimetabolite, we have flucytosine. Then among the azoles, we have two classes of drugs, that is imidazoles and triazoles. Imidazoles are the older agents introduced in 1970, whereas triazoles are the newer azoles which are introduced in 1980. So among the imidazoles, we have clotrimazole, iconazole, miconazole, oxyconazole, and ketoconazole. Among the triazoles, we have fluconazole, itraconazole, voriconazole, and posaconazole. Then there are the allylamines like terbinafine, which was introduced in 2008, and certain other topical agents like tolnaftate, andeclinic acid, benzoic acid, cyclopyroxolamine, and butanafine. Now coming to the mechanism of action of the antifungal drugs. For these, we can understand the mechanism of action by our understanding of the fungal cell. As we know, the fungal cell is made up of two layers, the outer cell wall and the inner cell membrane. The fungal cells, they are surrounded by the cell wall, and this cell wall is a rigid structure, and it is a new and important target for antifungal therapy like the echinocandins, which act on the cell wall. The cell wall has three components, that is the chitin, proteins, and the beta glucans. The synthesis of beta glucans is done by the beta glucan synthase enzyme, which is there in the cell membrane, and it is responsible for synthesis of the beta glucans which make up the cell wall. The cell membrane, if you see the cell membrane, this is a structure which is made up of ergosterol, and this plasma membrane, that is the cell membrane, you can see the drug polyene, amphotericin B, it binds to the ergosterol in the cell membrane. So amphotericin B acts as a ergosterol binder. Then the endoplasmic reticulum, we can see the fungal microsomes, they contain two enzymes, that is the squalene epoxidase and the 14-alpha demethylase enzyme. These two enzymes are responsible for biosynthesis of the ergosterol, and these enzymes, they are targeted by the azoles like imidazoles and triazoles, and they are also targeted by antifungal drugs like allylamines. So the allylamines, they inhibit the squalene epoxidase enzyme, and azoles, they inhibit the 14-alpha demethylase enzyme. Now, so we have seen the cell wall and cell membrane. Now, inside the fungus, in the cytoplasm, we can see that there are certain thread-like structure or microtubules which play a very important role in the mitosis of the fungus. So during the cell division and for the mitosis, there is the important role of the microtubules. So these microtubules, they are involved in mitotic splintering, as well as when the cytoplasm of an eukaryotic cell, it splits up to form the two daughter cells. So this is the important function of the microtubules. So griseofulvin is a antifungal drug which binds to the microtubules and interferes with their function. So this is the action. So we can see that we have drugs acting on the cell wall, drugs acting on the cell membrane, like the polyenes, amphotericin B, drugs which are acting on the inhibition of ergosterol synthesis, like the azoles and allylamines. Now we have drugs which are acting on the cytoplasm. So it is the griseofulvin which binds to the microtubules and interferes with their function. Also, there are drugs which act on the nucleus. We have flucytosine, which is a pyrimidine antimetabolite, and flucytosine inhibits the thymidylate synthesis. And we know that thymidylate acid is an important component of DNA. So in this way, flu cytosine inhibits the DNA synthesis. So we have seen that the fungus is made up of two layers, that is the outer cell wall and the inner cell membrane. The outer cell wall, as you know, it is having the three components, that is the manoproteins, the beta-1,6 glucan, beta-1,3 glucan, and the chitin. Now the cell wall is a rigid structure, and you can see the chitin. This is a linear polysaccharide which is containing the N-acetyl glucosamine chains, and it is bundled into a microfibril. So we can see it forms a fundamental scaffold of the cell wall. Now, as far as the beta-1,3-D glucan and the beta-1,6-D glucan are concerned, these glucans, these are the polymers of glucose which are joined by the glycosidic linkages, and the glucans, they are the most abundant component of the cell wall. These glucan polymers are covalently linked to the chitin scaffold. As far as the manoproteins are concerned, these are glycoproteins, that is proteins which contain the mannose chains. That's why they are known as the manoproteins. And these cell wall glycoproteins, they are covalently linked to the chitin and the glucan and other cell wall proteins. So mammalian cell, if we see, do not have a cell wall. So the drugs which are directed against the fungal cell wall, they are expected to have a very high therapeutic index. And echinocandins, we have this drug which inhibits the glucan synthase enzyme. And by inhibiting the glucan synthase enzyme, it inhibits the cell wall biosynthesis. And echinocandins, they cause disruption of the fungal cell wall integrity, and they have a fungicidal action. Now, if we see the cell membrane, the inner cell membrane, this is containing the phospholipid bilayer, and it is a structure which is containing the ergosterol. So these lipids are there, and the fungi, they have cellular structure which is similar to the animal cells, but the difference is the unique biochemical differences, that they contain an important biochemical contrast, the biochemical contrast as compared to the animal cells. That is, the principal sterol which is there, it is the ergosterol, whereas in the mammalian cells we have the cholesterol. And this ergosterol is used to maintain the plasma membrane structure as well as the function of the cell membrane. So ergosterol plays a very important role in the cell membrane. And we have the polyenes. It is very clearly shown here that polyenes like the amphotericin B, they bind to the ergosterol in the cell membrane. So they act as ergosterol binders, and amphotericin B has no action as far as the ergosterol synthesis is concerned. So it just acts as a, it just binds to the ergosterol, and it increases the cell membrane permeability, and by causing certain leakage of the contents, it has the fungicidal action. Whereas we can see here that the ergosterol synthesis pathway, it is inhibited by the azoles and L-alamines, and these azoles, they act as ergosterol synthesis inhibitors. The L-alamines, they inhibit the squalene epoxidase enzyme, whereas the azoles, they inhibit the 14-alpha demethylase enzyme. So both these drugs, they act as ergosterol synthesis inhibitor. So we can see, and we have also seen amphotericin B, which only acts as a ergosterol binder. Then we can see the fluoropyrimidines like the flucytosine, which inhibits the DNA synthesis in the fungus. So we can summarize the different antifungal drugs, or the classification of the antifungal drugs based on the mechanism of action. That is, we have cell wall synthesis inhibitors which inhibit formation of glucans like the echinocandins. Drugs which increase the cell membrane permeability by combining with ergosterol. So these are ergosterol binders, that like amphotericin B and nystatin. Then we have ergosterol synthesis inhibitors which inhibit 14-alpha lenosterol demethylase, that is the azoles like imidazoles and triazoles. And there are the antifungal drugs which inhibit the squalene epoxidase enzyme, that is the L-alamines like the terbinafine. Then we have the drugs which are acting on the cytoplasm, that is, which is inhibiting the mitosis by acting on the microtubules like griseotulbin. And we also have drugs which are acting on the nucleus, that is nucleic acid synthesis inhibitor, like the flucytosine. So with this understanding, we have seen that the outer cell wall, we can see here in this diagram, as well as we can see the inner cell membrane. And the inner cell membrane, which is rich in the ergosterol. And the biosynthesis of the ergosterol, it involves series of steps that we can see here in this diagram. We have the acetyl coenzyme A, which gets converted into the HMG-CoA and further into the mevalonate, and then it gets converted into the squalene. This squalene gets converted into lanosterol by the enzyme squalene epoxidase, and lanosterol gets converted into the ergosterol by the enzyme 14-alpha lanosterol demethylase enzyme. So the two steps in the ergosterol biosynthesis, these are targeted by the currently available antifungal drugs. As we can see here, the azoles, they target the 14-alpha lanosterol demethylase enzyme, and the L-alamines, they target the squalene epoxidase enzyme. Now, the enzymes which catalyze this ergosterol synthesis, they are located in the fungal microsomes. And this is nearly identical to that which is found in the mammalian liver microsomes. The first step is catalyzed by the enzyme squalene epoxidase, as you can see here in this diagram. And the second step is mediated by the fungus-specific cytochrome P450 enzyme, that is the 14-alpha sterol demethylase enzyme. Now, because the ergosterol is necessary for the maintenance of the plasma membrane structure and function, so ergosterol synthesis inhibitors like azoles and L-alamines, they will compromise the fungal membrane integrity. So we can see that the imidazoles, these azoles, that is imidazoles like ketoconazole and triazole like itraconazole, they are primarily, they are fungistatic. They suppress the fungal cell growth, so they are having action of fungistatic action. Whereas if we see the L-alamines like terbinafine, naftifine, amorolfine, these drugs, they are they cause the fungal cell death. So they have a fungicidal action, and moreover, they cause accumulation of the squalene because they inhibit squalene epoxidase. So this accumulation of squalene, it is said that it is itself is very toxic to the fungal cell membrane, and this is responsible for the fungicidal action. As far as the azoles are concerned, we have imidazoles and triazoles. It is said that the triazoles, as compared to the imidazoles, they have a lower host toxicity. That is, they are less toxic. Triazoles are less toxic as compared to the imidazoles, and this is because it is correlated with their lower affinity for the mammalian cytochrome P450 enzyme, that is the 14-alpha lanosterol demethylase enzyme. So they have a lower affinity for this enzyme. Triazoles have lower affinity as compared to the imidazoles, and also the triazoles have a lesser propensity to inhibit the mammalian sterol synthesis. So because of this specific action, they are less toxic. Triazoles are less toxic as compared to the imidazoles, and the triazoles are now the considered better drugs as far as different azoles are concerned. Now let us summarize the mechanism of action. So we can see first we have the cell wall synthesis. This fungal 1,3-glucan synthase inhibition, it results in depletion of the cell wall glucan, and because of depletion of the cell wall glucan, and it also causes the osmotic instability, and it causes the cell death, and it has as a fungicidal agent. So we have echinocandins like caspofungin, micafungin, anidulafungin. Then we have the drugs which are acting on the cell membrane. We have the membrane pore formation by the polyenes like amphotericin B, natamycin, nystatin. These polyenes, what they do is they act as ergosterol binders. So they just bind to the ergosterol, leading to formation of aqueous pores. And because of formation of the aqueous pores, like a type of canal is formed in the fungal cell membrane, and this increases the membrane permeability and subsequent leakage of the intracellular contents. This leads to the fungal cell death, leading to the fungicidal action of the amphotericin B. Again, in the cell membrane, we have drugs like the L-alamines and benzylamine, and L-alamines like the terbinafine, amorolfine, naftifine, and benzylamine like the butanafine. These drugs, they inhibit the squalene epoxidase enzyme, and they interfere with synthesis of ergosterol, and they are responsible for conversion of the squalene to lenosterol. So there is more accumulation of the squalene, and squalene itself is very toxic to the fungal cell membrane. Then we have the other drugs like azoles, which are also ergosterol synthesis inhibitor, and these imidazoles and triazoles, imidazoles like cotrimoxazole, oxyconazole, miconazole, ketoconazole, and triazoles like the fluconazole, itraconazole, voriconazole, posaconazole, they cause the inhibition of the fungal lenosterol 14 alpha demethylase enzyme. This causes depletion of the ergosterol, and there is accumulation of this toxic sterol in the fungal cell membrane. There is more accumulation of the squalene. So this will affect the cell membrane. So these are the antifungal drugs which affect the cell membrane. So we have seen drugs acting on the cell wall synthesis and drugs which are acting on the cell membrane, like the polyenes and the azoles and the L-alamines and benzylamines. Then we have drug which acts on the cytoplasm, that is griseofulvin, which has an effect on the cell division or during the mitosis. So it causes the mitosis inhibition. Griseofulvin, it binds to the microtubules and interferes with their function, and it causes inhibition of the mitosis in the fungus. So it affects the cell division. Then last but not the least, we can summarize that there are certain drugs which act on the nucleus. We have nucleic acid synthesis inhibitors like flucytosine, which by inhibiting the thymidylate synthesis, it decreases the production of the thymidylate acid, which is a very important component of the DNA. So it causes inhibition of the DNA synthesis. So with this, we need our understanding of mechanism of action of the currently available antifungal drugs is known to us. But at present, research for new antifungal targets is ongoing, and we are facing many problems. We have started facing problems of certain resistance, as well as during the clinical practice, the occurrence of recurrent infections is also posing a lot of problem, and it is many times it is annoying. So there is a constant search for new antifungal drugs, and here we can see that the different cellular targets for antifungal drug action. We have the drugs targeting the cell wall, as you know, the inhibitor of the beta glucan synthase. We have echinocandins. This is already known to you, caspofungin. Then drugs which are causing inhibition of the manoprotein. These drugs, antifungal group like prednisone, benanomycin. These drugs are under investigation and currently under investigation. And then there is inhibitor of the chitin synthase, that is the nicomycin Z, which was discovered in 1976, and it works by interfering with the fungal cell wall synthesis, because chitin production is affected because it acts as an inhibitor of the chitin synthase. So this nicomycin, it has a weak activity against aspergillus, and many times it can be useful in combination with other antifungal drugs like amphotericin B, caspofungin, or with the azoles. Then coming to the cell membrane, so we have the ergosterol binders like polyene antibiotics, and we have ergosterol synthesis inhibitors like azoles and L-alamines and benzylamines. Among the azoles, there is another new drug, sertaconazole, and the reason for mentioning this sertaconazole is, I have mentioned here, is it is a new topical imidazole, and it has a besides inhibiting the 14 alpha demethylase enzyme, which is responsible for conversion of lenosterol to ergosterol, and it prevents the fungal fungal cell growth is prevented. So this action is there. Besides this, sertaconazole has a unique action. This unique action differs from other imidazole antifungal drugs because of the unique action in its chemical structure. It is having certain fungicidal, fungistatic action, antibacterial action, anti-inflammatory action, anti-trichomonas action, as well as anti-pruritic action. Then in cytoplasm, we can see that we have the drugs which are acting on the microtubules like the griseofulvin. Besides, there is an important class of drugs which act as protein synthesis inhibitors. And we have one drug, oxaborole, we have tababorole. This causes inhibition of the transfer RNA synthetase fungal enzyme, which is this leucyl transfer RNA synthetase fungal enzyme. It is responsible for protein synthesis. So this is inhibited by the tababorole, and it is a topical antifungal drug used for treating the onychomycosis, which was approved in 2014. So protein synthesis inhibition, which lead to termination of the cell growth, fungal cell growth will be inhibited, then it will lead to the cell death, and finally we will be eliminating the fungal infection. So this is one drug which is promising. Another protein synthesis inhibitor is the drugs like sordarins, which is affecting the elongation factor 2. And these drugs, these are a new class of potential antifungal agents which inhibit protein synthesis in the pathogenic fungi, and especially they target the elongation factor 2. And finally, drugs which are acting on the nucleus, we have the flucytosine affecting the DNA synthesis. And besides this, there is a drug pentamidine. We know about this pentamidine. It is an antimicrobial drug which was introduced in 1937. And basically, pentamidine is a drug used for treating the leishmaniasis and African trypanosomiasis. And this drug by injection, IV injection, intramuscular injection, and inhalation, it is now being used to prevent and treat the pneumocystis pneumonia. That is the pneumocystis pneumonia caused by the pneumocystis cerevisiae. Earlier, it was known as the pneumocystis carinii infection, which is occurring in people with poor immune function. So basically, it is used to treat the pneumocystis pneumonia. So in this diagram, we can see very clearly it is mentioned the drug which are acting on the cell wall. If you see, these are the echinocandins and nicomycin. So echinocandin, you know very well that it is the beta glucan synthase inhibitor, and it is affecting the cell wall synthesis. Then nicomycin Z is a chitin synthase inhibitor. So it is affecting the production of the chitin, which is an important element of the fungal cell wall. Then secondly, we can see drugs which are acting on the cell membrane, that is drugs like azoles and polyenes like the amphotericin B. Then third, we can see the drugs which are acting on the by inhibition of the protein synthesis. So we have the sordarins, which is a new class of potential antifungal agents which are acting on the elongation factor 2. And also here in the protein synthesis, we can remember the drug tababorole, which inhibits the transfer RNA synthetase, and it causes the protein synthesis inhibition. Also, drug acting on the nucleus is there, and flucytosine, it inhibits the DNA synthesis. So our understanding of the cell wall, we have seen that the cell wall contains the manoproteins beta 1,6 glucan and beta 1,3 glucan, this and the chitin. So we know that the beta 1,3 glucan, it is inhibited by the echinocandins. Chitin is inhibited by nicomycin Z, and manoproteins, the drugs are under investigation like prednisone and benanomycin. So we can see that this is the cell wall and the drugs targeting different elements of the cell wall. Then in cell membrane, we can see the phospholipid bilayer of the cell membrane, and we can see that this is, we can see the beta 1,3 glucan synthase. We know that the echinocandins, the antifungal agents, they target the beta 1,3 glucan synthase enzyme. And what they do, what is the function of this beta 1,3 glucan synthesis? They add the glucose residues from the donor molecule, that is the UDP glucose, to the growing polysaccharide chain. On the other hand, if you see the new drugs which are under development, like the chitin synthase inhibitors. Now, what the chitin synthesis inhibitor, like the nicomycin Z, what it does is it targets the chitin synthase, and chitin synthase enzyme, it adds the N-acetyl glucosamine residues from the donor molecule, that is the UDP glucosamine N-acetyl, to the growing polysaccharide chain. So this is the action by which, so maybe in future we may have some drugs which will have actors which will be useful, and they will cause the inhibition of the chitin synthase. Now, we have already seen that there are drugs among the azoles, imidazole. We have seen there is a drug that is the conazole, and I've already mentioned that it inhibits the 14 alpha demethylase enzyme. So it has action just like the other azoles. And besides this, it is a new topical imidazole. And besides this action on the demethylase enzyme, 14 alpha demethylase enzyme, just like other azoles, it has a unique mechanism of action. And this unique mechanism of action, it differs from the other imidazole antifungals. It is said that the sertaconazole has a basic in the chemical structure, it has a benzothiophene ring, and this benzothiophene ring, it mimics the tryptophan. And as we know that in addition to lipids such as ergosterol, the tryptophan is also found in the fungal membrane. So this benzothiophene ring, which is there in the sertaconazole, it mimics the tryptophan, and it facilitates the ability of the drug is increased. It forms pores in the fungal cell membrane, and because pores are formed in the fungal cell membrane, cell membrane becomes leaky, and the fungal cell will die. So because of the loss of the ATP. So it is said that this cetoconazole, when it is used, the pores are they open within 10 minutes of the topical application, and after 1 hour, approximately 90% of the fungal cells they die. So due to lack of the energy due to the ATP loss. So this is a unique mechanism of action of the cetoconazole, and it is useful in the athletics foot, in the interdigital tinea pedis in the immunocompetent patients, as well as it also has a use in some vaginal. Has a preparation vaginal tablet form also. And this fungus which are susceptible to the cetoconazole are Candida albicans, Epidermophyton, and the Trichophyton. So we can see here that the fungal microsomes, they are containing the enzymes which catalyze the ergosterol synthesis, and also they contain the electron transport system. This electron transport system is identical to the mammalian liver microsomes. We have certain drugs like cyclopirox, rilopirox, which interfere with the mitochondrial electron transport process and the energy production. So besides the cell wall, cell membrane, cytoplasm, and nucleus, which are potential targets for the antifungal drug action, we have a fungal adhesins, which represents the fifth potential target for the antifungal drugs. And the addition of fungus to the host cells, it is mediated by binding of the fungal adhesins to the host cell receptor. So for example of these in yeast, for example, we have the aspartyl proteases and phospholipases, which mediate the adhesion. So this is how the fungus adheres to the host cell, because of binding of the fungal adhesins to the host cell receptor. So a potential target at research is going on for drugs which can block the adhesive interaction between fungal cell and mammalian cells. These are currently under development. So lastly, we come to the end of this discussion. A word about the fungal resistance. Resistance to the amphotericin B is rarely noted. Sometimes the candida in leukopenic cancer patients, it is reported, but it is not a problem. Amphotericin B, the fungal resistant mechanism is maybe by the acquisition of some ergosterol precursor instead of ergosterol in the resistant fungi. This can be one mechanism, or there can be the decreased permeability of the amphotericin B. As far as resistance to griseofulvin is concerned, it is rare, and development of fungal resistance to azoles, it is noted among candida infecting the advanced AIDS patients. And fluconazole resistance is reported in candida, causing the esophageal and other deep candidiasis. Many of the fluconazole resistant candida, they respond to the itraconazole or voriconazole. And in azoles, we can see there is the mutation of the gene encoding for the fungal 14 alpha demethylase enzyme. And there can be sometimes the increased production of the enzyme 14 alpha demethylase, and cross resistance also between different azoles may also occur.